had to go to that place to get to this one. Now some of you might still be in that place. If you're trying to get out, just follow me. I'll get you there.
Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of WrestleTalkShow. I'm your host Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, bits, rumors, ins and outs, anything and everything wrestling. We make sure we cover it. Today we have news on such as Matt Hardy released from TNA. More X Division wrestlers leave TNA. The Rock in the production business now. Relates to wrestling though. This should be interesting. And ratings for this week's and last week's TV, as well as much, much more. But first, we want to get the particulars out of the way. Sorry guys, I've been doing a lot of paperwork today. Catching up on some stuff. But we want to say thank you to everyone that watches WrestleTalkShow via YouTube or however you discover this program, as it is our 1 year anniversary, and without you it would not be possible. So again, to YouTube, to Facebook, to just people that find us randomly, thank you. Thank you to our 57 committed subscribers. Thank you to you all. Thank you to our friends in the UK, the United States, Japan, New Zealand, Australia. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you, this would not be possible. And as always, you can watch this video as well as every other video from our start at youtube.com/CWE Company and interact with the online forums at WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. That's the official site for our show. It's due for an overhaul that's coming with this 1 year anniversary show. The website is the next thing to be taken care of. But WrestleTalkShow.webs.com, interact with the forum, give your opinion on an existing topic, post a new topic, interact with other listeners. Email the show, cwecompany@gmail.com. Anything and everything wrestling related. If you have a question, we'll be sure to answer it on air on the most recent episode to your email. We do not forget about our fans. Just put in the subject header that it's a question for the show, so it does not get filtered or sent to a folder that it shouldn't be sent to. Let's just say the spam folder sometimes isn't always spam in there. But moving right along, welcome again. I'm your host Joshua Zimmerman, and let's get into the particulars of today's 1 year anniversary show. We have over 6 pages of notes. I know I made the advertisement yesterday that it was 6 pages, I believe. 6. Yep. Total of about 5 3/4 pages, but computer considers it 6 pages. But in just a moment, we're going to start off like we always do with your ratings and show news. The stats for the show were taken as of August 18th. The ratings are as current as Monday Night Raw this past Monday. As of the 18th, worldwide, all of our videos had 10,019 hits. That's a huge success. Thank you for that. And views in the last 24 hours, which was the 17th to the 18th, was 172 just in a 24-hour period. So thank you very much. Without you, that would not be possible. And moving into our subscribers, we have 57 committed subscribers to the show. And And now for your wrestling ratings. TNA Impact for August 18th, 2011 scored a 1.05. WWE Friday Night Smackdown for August 19th, 2011 scored a 1.83, averaging 2.92 million viewers. And finally, the controversial this past WWE Monday Night Raw for August 22nd, 2011. Some are calling it below and some are rounding it off at a 3.0. PW Torches reporting that if CM Punk and Cena doesn't sell in wrestling, what will? I believe their ratings breakdown was a 2.97, which I both, as we gained some of our stats from PW Torch, they rounded off to a 3.0. Give me 1 minute here, folks. Screwed my TV up. There it is. Fixed it. There we go. Now, into your wrestling news. WWE is testing the waters on a new John Cena merchandise line. How could it affect the overall WWE business? Well, WWE issued a survey to their customer base last week, testing the waters on a potential new John Cena merchandise line. Although it's not clear if WWE and Cena are considering another color scheme change, WWE is looking to debut the new merchandise line through their retail partner Kmart at a reduced price. So, I was just in Walmart today. The MMA shirts are going for between $5 and $9.50. At the mall, they still go for $12 to $25 a shirt. Believe me, I made that mistake once. In the survey, WWE asked, how interested would you be in purchasing a new line of authentic John Cena apparel, potentially to include the t-shirts, sweatbands, baseball caps, shorts, sneakers, and other things that address his attire for either you or someone else? A follow-up question reads, how interested would you be if this new line of authentic John Cena apparel were available at a major retail store? Examples were given such as Target, Kmart, Walmart, etc. for a reduced price. The other aspect of the survey is WWE gauging whether the reduced price merchandise line in a retail store will affect WWE's online sales through the WWE Shop, otherwise known as WWE Shop Zone. Although WWE's overall consumer products division has shown year-over-year growth in licensing and merchandise, mainly due to Mattel toy sales, online sales have been stagnant, broadening out the objective of the survey. It appears WWE is gauging where their customer base shops for WWE merchandise, retail in person versus online, to determine whether retail exclusive merchandise offers would affect the shop segment. And let me address that for a minute, because that's something that I've argued. I believe it was on a previous episode. Is the example I just made with the MMA wear. I like to wear MMA authentic. I like the way it fits the size, all that other shit, fancy shit. I like the designs, the skulls, you know, the designs, the feel of the shirts, the material, and overall what the deciding factor is for anybody, and anybody tells you different, they're lying, is along with everything just mentioned, cost is a factor. So when you watch the before mentioned MMA elite wear go from $25 a shirt at your local mall to between $5 and literally $9.50 at a Walmart, whereas WWE.com t-shirts start at $25 unless it's on clearance, and it might not be all the time, but it's the typical standard of clearance. Nothing you really want is ever in their clearance. Triple H has some good shirts that I think would do great. I would definitely consider buying them more often. I would definitely buy them if they were cheaper, to kind of rat myself out. I even wait for the knockoff Cena shirts, more or less, because the shop, when I was at Raw this past June, well, a year ago in June, I'm not going to pay $30 for a shirt when somebody who's just as good with computer graphics, now granted, you have to look at what you're buying for that $10, $15. There's a reason it's $10, $15 cheaper. One, it's not licensed. Well, it's not licensed. But if the person knows what they're doing, same goes with any event tee. You can get a good t-shirt for $10. And the John Cena shirt I bought a year ago still stands true now. So in a long form, I don't see why they would be worried, because, as mentioned, the merchandise line has seen year-to-year growth, and offering reduced merchandise would just booster it up. Eventually, it would pay for itself. Even if they start out losing a little bit, if you reduce your merchandise to something your consumers can afford more frequently, then they're going to buy the latest John Cena shirt you put out at Kmart. They're going to buy the latest John Cena wristbands or Triple H t-shirt at Walmart, Kmart, Target, etc. So it might hurt in the beginning, but we're all looking with today's economy and facing near breakdown of our economic system not a month ago. Affordability is everything. WWE needs to stop worrying about the overall sales, as we outlined in the last episode. Even though pay-per-views and live events may suffer, WWE makes so much money on its other interests and other areas of business that it almost pays for itself. This is a company that still, again, I make the argument, after operating expenses, pulls in over $230 million. Whether they had a good pay-per-view year or a bad pay-per-view year. Hell, we showed you statistics last show that broke it down year by year in the second quarter, same time in the second quarter from 2007 to current. They lose money, but they make it up in other places, so it's a wash. Now, should they be more focused on their pay-per-view? Absolutely. Your pay-per-view should be what they're doing now, but what they should have been doing all along, where they're not in the previews to Raw giving away the winners of a pay-per-view. They're waiting until the 9 o'clock slot and Monday Night Raw comes on to even start talking about it. Whereas in the previews or visiting WWE.com, it gave it right away. So build-up is everything. That's the whole point of the pay-per-view. The 4 weeks, and maybe WWE's the exception with the bi-weekly pay-per-views. And that's the argument for the bi-weekly pay-per-views. You need to have enough time to build credible stories, to have credible resolutions at these pay-per-views. That way you wouldn't have to spend from 7:30 to 8 o'clock every 2 weeks with 2 announcers for WWE hyping the event for 30 minutes straight because you're looking for last minute buys. if you give the wrestling fans something to look forward to, you won't have to convince them to buy it. We will buy it. I didn't buy SummerSlam because WWE talked me into it. I did it because I needed to cover it for the show. I split it with my brother-in-law, so proving yet again cost is another factor. I would not pay $50 every 2 weeks for these pay-per-views. Some of them aren't even needed. My argument, Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, WrestleMania. The other ones are hit or miss, but that doesn't mean that you can't fix what you've broken. WWE has broken its own pay-per-view business. The reason its pay-per-view business is in a decline is because of how WWE has treated the pay-per-view business. Notice how the tag team titles aren't defended at SummerSlam, but on Monday Night Raw, your tag team champions are in action. Just certain things that make sense, but we got 5 other pages to get through and a lot more news, but that's the whole point of this show. So it might be a little longer, not 2 hours, but I might go on some rants here, and it's been a while, so let me vent. Longtime WWE announcer moving to ESPN. Grisham is headed to ESPN, that's right. Grisham has been on the out. Todd Grisham has been on the outs with WWE since Vince McMahon lost faith in his role as lead announcer on Smackdown. On Smackdown, he's done nothing but backstage interviews lately. On Thursday night's NXT episode, William Regal noted it was Grisham's final broadcast. Bret Hart to appear on Smackdown, but what will his role be? WWE tweeted 2 hours before the start of Tuesday's Smackdown TV taping. Spoiler alert, folks. Quote, this Friday on Smackdown, WWE Hall of Famer Bret Hart will be SmackDown's general manager from his hometown of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Hart was advertised locally to appear at the taping as special referee for the bonus main event of Randy Orton versus Christian in a street fight. WWE has now added an on-air role for Hart on the actual SmackDown broadcast. So it may discredit what we said last episode about WWE and Randy Orton and Christian being done. It sounds like they're gonna... It's a storyline that can go further. I don't know why there was a rumor it was on its outs, but it can go further. I mean, I loved that was, I don't know about you guys, but that was one of my favorite matches at SummerSlam. I thought your main event was a sham. Alberto Del Rio got lucky. I mean, as any Money in the Bank person would, but we'll save that for the segment. The Rock producing a wrestling series for the NBC network with popular producer Rock. Dwayne Johnson is teaming with big-name TV Hollywood producer Jerry Bruckheimer to produce a drama series based on the 1980s boom period for pro wrestling. NBC has already bought the rights to the project. Project, reports industry trade publication Deadline.com, and committed to helping produce the pilot. The series is slated to be over a 1-hour show, reports HollywoodReporter.com. Bruckheimer, who is well known for his popular CSI series and other procedural TV shows, is breaking from his typical formula to help produce the, quote, fictional drama set in the world of wrestling in the 1980s, end quote. The project also has 2 lead writers and additional producers. Rock, Bruckheimer, and CSI producer Jonathan Littman will be the executive producers. Mick Foley in talks with WWE on his return, but will he wrestle? Foley says he's had recent talks with WWE about returning to the promotion following his TNA stint. The discussions are now focused on when to return, how many dates, and whether Foley will wrestle again. Quote, "We've definitely been talking, and it's just a matter of what's the best fit, how many days I feel like being gone," said Foley. In an interview with Dwayne Dugan of the Wrestling Voice podcast. One possibility is Foley making a guest appearance on WWE's biannual European tour in November when he's on a personal UK tour, which Foley hinted at in the interview. Foley said he doesn't necessarily have to be on TV to still make a difference for WWE in his eyes. Quote, "Unlike TNA, if you weren't on the show, you weren't of value to the company. With WWE, there is any number of things I could do, so we're just trying to find out what we want it to be and how big we want it to be," Foley said. Regarding his in-ring future, Foley says he has, quote, "a couple more big matches in him. Quote, I'm starting to shed some of that extra weight, so if and when I get that call, I can have a good match. Maybe not a great match, but maybe I've got a couple more matches left in me," said Foley. TNA Wrestling releases Matt Hardy after being arrested for drunk driving on August 20th. Hardy was released by TNA following a drunk driving arrest Saturday in North Carolina, reports TMZ. According to Moore County police officials, Hardy was arrested Saturday afternoon on suspicion of drunk driving after crashing his Corvette into a tree. Hardy was released from jail around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. After TMZ's initial report on Hardy's arrest, TNA announced the company was cutting ties with Hardy, who was already suspended. Matt's brother Jeff is also on leave from TNA. TNA's official statement reads, quote, "TNA today released Impact Wrestling star Matt Hardy from its roster. Hardy was already under suspension from the company," end quote. TNA also made a formal announcement on their website. Quote, "TNA released Impact Wrestling star Matt Hardy from its roster. Hardy was already under suspension from the company." Same thing. Hardy has not addressed his arrest or release on Twitter yet, but that probably changed. This past Friday, Hardy posted a note on his personal desire to return to a, quote, "healthy, happy place. It's time for me to get back to a healthy, happy place. The transformation has now started for me, for us. New chapter will begin," end quote. WWE stock hits 52-week low. Stock price closed at $8.82 a share this past Friday, hitting a 52-week low of $8.75 per share during the day. WWE stock was down 3.0% compared to last Thursday, while the overall stock market was down 1.60%. Sci-Fi announces Smackdown will be live on a different night. WWE Smackdown will air live on August 30th, which is a Tuesday night. Smackdown that night will take place in Wichita, Kansas, or Arkansas, in Wichita, and it will be called, quote, Super Smackdown. It will also air in its usual time slot on Friday, September 2nd, but it will be a replay of the live Tuesday show. So, instead of going to see it on Tuesday and the viewers watching it on Friday, you'll be able to watch it live on Tuesday and the replay on Friday. Evidence building that Kevin Nash will wrestle for WWE again. Nash reportedly pulled out of independent bookings for the CWI promotion this past weekend to take a WWE physical. The physical is required for talent to be cleared to wrestle full-time, which is more evidence pointing to Nash's in-ring return in WWE. Bill Goldberg, returning to wrestling, says WWE can, quote, kiss my ass, an explanation coming soon that former WWE WCW champion Bill Goldberg did not post a series of tweets on his account Friday night. The following, quote, announcements were made on Goldberg's Twitter account, quote, by the way, I'm back, quote, maybe Batista as his next opponent, quote, no way he's going back to WWE, quote, it ain't WWE, they can kiss my ass, Goldberg said. Goldberg was vague on whether he's talking to TNA, but said it's, quote, contract time. Goldberg went on to insult several people on Twitter, knocking him for not returning to WWE. Bret Hart comments on recent WWE talent cuts. Bret Hart says it's, quote, unfortunate his nephew D.H. Smith was released from his WWE contract 2 weeks ago, but he believes Smith will return. Quote, it's unfortunate, but these things happen. You might look at it as a setback, but you might look at it as a blessing in disguise. I think he's a great talent, but needs to reinvent himself, and by stepping away from WWE might be a nice break. But I don't doubt that in time he'll be back in the WWE. He's still young and a great talent, says Hart in an interview with WrestlingVoice.net. Linda McMahon addresses her possible 2012 Senate run. Former WWE CEO Linda McMahon says she's, quote, seriously leaning in the direction of running again for U.S. Senate in Connecticut for 2012. While political associates and insiders have spoken on her behalf in recent weeks, McMahon has remained quiet about her intentions. McMahon told the Wall Street Journal her main objective is revamping her image for a likely run in 2012. The official announcement should come next month, according to the Wall Street Journal. The objective for McMahon will be distancing herself from her WWE background, which was a major factor in her 2010 Senate loss, especially among female voters who could not disassociate McMahon from WWE's historically torty and questionable TV content. According to the Wall Street Journal, McMahon is, quote, already undertaking a larger push to right the wrongs of her failed race, revamping her image into a warmer, more likable figure in hopes of drawing female voters, end quote. Political insiders have already said McMahon will likely seek campaign contributions rather than tapping into her personal wealth. $50 million could not win a Senate seat in 2010, but insiders say McMahon, quote, won't have to spend nearly as much money just to achieve name recognition, end quote. For the full article and other details on the announcement and potential Senate run, visit the Wall Street Journal at WSJ.com. John Morrison calls McMahon a, quote, micromanager, comments on Melina release and what makes him nervous working in the WWE. An interview with John Morrison in Canada's Sun newspapers this past weekend starts off with an in-character discussion of Morrison's feud with R-Truth before he opens up with comments on Vince McMahon, Melina, what makes him nervous in WWE, and other subjects. Playing word association, Morrison describes the WWE CEO Vince McMahon as a micromanager. His full quote reads as follows. McMahon is, quote, a super talented workaholic micromanager, a perfectionist who expects the same from his employees, Morrison says. His girlfriend Melina feels, quote, liberated after being released from WWE 2 weeks ago. Quote, the idea of having more freedom to choose when and where to work is liberating for her, said Morrison. Morrison admitted to being nervous before interviews on the microphone. Morrison admitted to being nervous before interviews on the microphone. He said he doesn't view it as a bad thing, though. Quote, if you're nervous, it means you care. It means you care about what you're doing, he said. Quote, look at The Rock. Before he goes out there, he's a nervous wreck. Morrison was also in character for word association on CM Punk, Triple H, The Miz, and Randy Orton. He also strongly endorsed Melina, calling her, quote, the most talented diva ever to be employed by the most talented diva ever to be employed by WWE. They didn't think so, but WWE's made mistakes before. And on that one, I'll just say, WWE, like I said when I was covering Smackdown, Facebook.com/CWE Company, Twitter.com/CWE Company, but we use our Facebook more, just so you guys know. And for our independent wrestling dates and how you can become involved in Continental Wrestling Entertainment, which is the company that started this show, freewebs.com/CWE Company. I'm looking for wrestlers, divas, all of the above. Submit resumes, pictures, and anything else to cwecompany@gmail.com. The birth of the promotion was the birth of the show. But getting back to the Divas thing, what I was saying on our Facebook during the Divas title match is you had a barely 5-minute Divas title match. They do not take it seriously anymore, where it's based on physical ability. If you look good, you become a diva. They should be molded, not like, because you can only have one Trish Stratus, but you can have beauty and power. It would work for the females. I would argue it would work. Linda wouldn't have to disassociate herself from WWE for female votes if the females felt that the women in WWE were valued. And they're not. They come and they go. They're fillers for the in-betweens for your main events and your mid-cards. It needs to mean something. One would argue we need to get rid of the Divas title, bring back the women's title, and make it mean something. This argument comes full circle with every title in World Wrestling Entertainment. It needs to be taken seriously. The World Heavyweight Championship should not rotate pay-per-view to pay-per-view. RVD used to be credited for his runs in ECW because they were 24-month runs and they were legitimate defenses. The matches, and especially when there's titles involved, the title needs to matter. If that person loses, that person needs to show that it affected them to lose that title. And not just get your automatic rematch clause and go at it again and get it back next week. Because then it takes the fun out of the suspense you just built on the last title defense. Moving on. ROH announces its WrestleMania 28 lineup, including dates and locations. Ring of Honor announced this past Thursday they have finalized WrestleMania 28 weekend plans to run shows on Friday, March 30th, 2012, and Saturday, March 31st at the War Memorial Auditorium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Both events will be broadcast as internet pay-per-views. ROH is following this year's schedule in Atlanta, with shows on Friday night and Saturday afternoon, to arrange for ticket holders to attend WWE's Hall of Fame ceremony on Saturday night. Tickets for both shows are scheduled to go on sale Friday, September 9th through Ticketmaster.com. Something to take note, Fort Lauderdale is about 30-45 minutes away, 30 to 45 minutes north of where WWE's WrestleMania weekend events will be taking place in Miami. In other independent news, Dragon Gate USA has already announced its WrestleMania weekend plans for March 30th and March 31st at the Dulles Beach Resort in Miami. Both shows will be at night, with the Saturday show head-to-head with WWE's Hall of Fame ceremony. This is the story I was just commenting on that may have been discredited. Randy Orton appears on Fox, shows off his SummerSlam injury, implies that the Christian feud may be over, and stays to do the weather. World Heavyweight Champion Randy Orton suggested he will be moving on past his 4-month TV feud with Christian, starting with Tuesday's Smackdown TV taping in Bakersfield, California, which already happened. So you be the judge. That's the whole point of this. An interactive show, WrestleTalkShow. There's a question for the forums, or the emails. Do you think the Randy Orton Christian feud should continue, and why? Or do you think it should end, and why? Tell me your arguments. We'll go back and forth on it. WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Click on the forums link and you'll be connected directly. While you're there, remember to help the show in any way you can. But we'll get into that. He's moving on with the 4-month feud with Christian, starting with Tuesday's TV taping in Bakersfield, California. Orton appeared on the local Fox affiliate in Bakersfield Tuesday morning to promote the taping. Asked what he'll say to Christian after defeating him for the title at SummerSlam, Orton said he doesn't have to say anything because he has the title back and he's moving on to bigger things. Orton also showed off stitches in his palm that resulted from a table spot during the no-holds-barred match at SummerSlam. After the 6-minute interview, Orton tag-teamed with Fox meteorologist to do the morning weather. UFC sets landmark deal with Fox, set to be executed in 2012. Ultimate Fighting Championship, otherwise known as UFC, the world's leading mixed martial arts organization and #1 pay-per-view event provider in the world, finds its perfect media match in Fox, the #1 television network in the country. Fox Sports Media Group, the umbrella entity representing Fox Networks Group's wide array of sports platforms, has reached a multi-year multimedia rights agreement with Zuffa Limited Liability Company. Let me go back. Reached a multi-year multimedia rights agreement with Zuffa LLC, owner of the UFC brand. The landmark agreement, which puts UFC on par with many of the country's professional sports organizations, delivers 4 live events in prime time or late night each year to the Fox broadcast network, home to the country's biggest sports events, including the Super Bowl, World Series, and Daytona 500. The first live event airs Saturday, November 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Additional programming on multiple Fox networks launches January 2012 and includes live fights, pre- and post shows, countdown shows, UFC Unleashed, UFC Primetime, the UFC Knockout Series, Best of Pride, weigh-in specials, and much more original content from extensive Zuffa archives. The agreement also provides for developing robust mobile and authenticated online offerings to exploit a vast array of digital platform rights. So they get a major deal and they're cashing in on what every other business has spent their time cashing in, that the internet can make you money. If you're online, you have an audience. Thus, we thank YouTube. Because without that and without you, the viewers, none of this would be possible. Remember, just to throw in a few plugs here, visit our friends at the PW Torch. We'll get right back to the news. PWTorch.com for late, up-to-the-minute wrestling news. Pro Wrestling, they offer a Monday through Friday live cast, which I believe is still 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, where they discuss the current happenings of wrestling, along with anything that may be on your mind, as it is a caller-driven show with rotating co-hosts that have multi-years in the business and in-depth industry knowledge, as well as former WWE creative team members and much, much more. They also have a VIP site where you get better access. pwtorch.com/govip. That's a $10 a month. There's prowrestling.net that does the free audio, and the live cast for PW Torch is also free audio. You just get more content by becoming a VIP member. Same thing with prowrestling.net with Jason Powell. He offers a weekly 45-minute free audio show where he discusses whatever's current in wrestling at the time that he does the show, whether it be a Raw, Impact, Smackdown, pay-per-view, or just random thoughts. But his insight is one of my favorites, and he's a go-to when I'm looking to confirm a story or to get follow-up news for a story that we're working on. As we said, Linda McMahon points out even more that her goal for this Senate race is to have a softer image. I'll save the rest of my rant for the segment, but I think you already know that I don't know why you would try to disassociating yourself from somebody you've known a week is one thing. You've only known him a week. But you've been the CEO forever. And we'll leave that cliffhanger there, and we'll get back to it in just a minute. But let's wrap up your news. R-Truth opens up about his past working with WWE and Little Jimmy. Charlotte native R-Truth was interviewed by Charlotte Magazine about his life and career. Of particular note in the story is how Truth made it into wrestling. Quote, "I thought I could make a living selling drugs," he says. While incarcerated, he was discovered by Jack Crockett, son of the late Jim Crockett, who brought wrestling to Charlotte in the 1940s. Jack Crockett offered to pay for his training, Each night after he wrestled, Killings would break down the rings. Each night after he wrestled, Killings would break down the rings. The next day, he would help put them back up. Killings, who had already been in and out of jail numerous times when he started working with Crockett, says his benefactor helped put him on a better path. Rey Mysterio gets an MRI on his injured knee. August 17th, Rey Mysterio tweeted that he had to have an MRI done on his injured knee. As reported, at that time, he was not expected to have surgery. But as of today, WWE wrestler Rey Mysterio says he will be out of action for, quote, a few months, which is due to the latest injury to his surgically repaired knee. Mysterio posted a message in Spanish on Twitter announcing his absence and surgery date of Friday, August 26. Mysterio's full message reads, and it's in Spanish, no disrespect to our Spanish viewers, but I will post it at facebook.com/CWE Company when the video uploads. That way you can follow along. And who knows? Maybe you'll see me on there tonight and we can have a discussion about anything and everything in wrestling. Again, guys, if you ever see me on Facebook, if you're a friend, if you're not a friend of the show is a friend of mine. Without your support, guys, we would not have made it this far. I know we're small, but to me, this is a great thing. It's wrestling. It's breaking down wrestling the way it should be. We're not kids, but we still want to be entertained. And WrestleTalkShow does its best to do that. Billy Gunn talks about working in WWE, having his singles career cut short, and working with his New Age Outlaw partner. Billy Gunn recently sat down with Dwayne Dugan from Wrestling Voice. He spoke about his early career training with Harris Brothers, becoming the WWE Tag Team Champions with Bart Gunn, the New Age Outlaws, his time as a member of D-Generation X, and the media frenzy that surrounded his on-screen marriage to Chuck Palumbo. He says that nobody should ever blame the WWE when its talent fails drug tests. He claims WWE never tells performers to take anything, and for a long time he was angry and blamed the WWE for his personal problems, but in the end he now takes full responsibility and says it's helped him get to a good place in his life. When asked if he minded having the rug pulled from under his singles push in 1999 after winning King of the Ring and working with The Rock and Stone Cold, he said he minded but wasn't going to waste his time complaining. He said he was told what he had to do and he did his job. He also feels people would still be willing to spend money to see the New Age Outlaws perform, and despite spending the weekend with Kevin Nash, he had no idea Nash would show up on WWE TV at SummerSlam. One might hint that Billy Gunn's on his way back. Triple H has no involvement. Kevin Nash says on Raw that it was his friend Triple H that asked him to interfere. Billy Gunn hangs out with Kevin Nash SummerSlam weekend, and now Billy Gunn has no idea. Is he back? Ricky Steamboat Jr.'s car broken into, thousands stolen. Current FCW wrestler and son of WWE Hall of Famer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Ricky Steamboat Jr., had his car broken into in Charlotte this past Monday. This past Monday. According to the police report, Steamboat lost $1,703 worth of possessions, including a Louis Vuitton purse and wallet, checkbook, watch, iPod Touch, baby shower invitation, and his credit cards and wallet. The thieves broke the passenger side window and grabbed the items. But with identity theft and the measures that are taken, he'll get all his money back. But moving into what I was commenting on, and we'll make this show segment a couple different segments into one. Linda McMahon wouldn't have to push herself away from WWE if females were taken more seriously in the WWE. And when your Divas division gets less than 10 minutes of pay-per-view time in a 3-hour pay-per-view, it doesn't show dependability in the product. I mean, not in the product. It's all still wrestling, but sorry while I text message here. But the Divas matches at one point weren't always fillers. Now they're 5-minute matches, so the real matches can have enough prep time. When you had your Trish Stratuses and your Chynas, it was, one might argue with Chyna, but it was good looks meets muscle, and it worked. I mean, to rewind, get rid of your Divas title, bring back your women's title as the only title for the women's division. Stop worrying about, now I'm not saying that you shouldn't have the whole package, because obviously television and mic skills are a must, public speaking's a must because of promo cutting and interviews and things of that nature. But it doesn't always have to be the calendar girls. Find me some girl next door type people who have the natural look but are ass kickers. This way you get your female demographic up, and then the female demographic could actually relate to the WWE product, and then Linda McMahon wouldn't have to distance herself from the product because the females have something they can enjoy too. Right now, the females are only there for that stupid Divas title that is just an excuse to have a battle royal that usually goes nowhere and ends in minutes. It's not even what you would call competitive or interesting. And this is strictly my opinion, but look at it over the years. From Chyna to Trish Stratus to where it is now, and even before that. Women were into wrestling. There's been a decline because the female demographic has been isolated out of the equation as it's an unfair stereotype that only men can be ass kickers. So I say revamp it all. Out of the group you have now, you spend all this money at FCW on training. You've already made investments in all of them. Turn them into wrestlers. Find them characters, since you're always busy buying the rights and names to different shit. Find characters for them and really attempt to push them. Your John Cena and CM Punk and Randy Orton and Christian will always have their fire. Their fire will eventually burn out. I would presume with age, like the Stone Cold thing. He didn't go away. He can't do it anymore. Make your women wrestlers matter. Make it seem like women's wrestling is just as competitive. It's contradictive when you can have a 45 minutes. That's what shocked me. The main event started at, I want to say 10 after 10, 10:15 for SummerSlam. Second main event, CM Punk versus John Cena for the undisputed title with Triple H as the guest referee. And that, until the end, you can have all your debates about the end. I know how it ended, I've seen it. But it went back and forth. And as a wrestling fan, that was another match that every pinfall I was on the edge of my seat. Oh, this guy's got it. Oh, he's got it. Oh, this guy's got it. We need to get back to a point where wrestling fans are eager to see what wrestling has to offer them next. And right now, this concern would become more addressed as the rumors as Raw falls below a 3.0. But get used to it. You're going to have football from here out. Ratings are going to take a little bit of a dip. If WWE's smart, they'll remember that this happens every year. You're not going to change those diehard football fans, just like you're not going to get those diehard UFC fans. But maybe, just maybe, since you spend so much money on your creative team, give us a summer of suspense. Something that when we order the pay-per-views, the storylines we've been watching, we want to see resolved. Stop rehashing, rekindling, whatever adjective you want to use. Original content, believable stories for a summer of wrestling and suspense. It doesn't seem that hard. But as the old saying goes, maybe it's easier said than done. It seems pretty straightforward. In order for the wrestling fan to be entertained, the wrestling has to be entertaining. And that's all for our show today, folks. Again, we want to thank you for a very successful 1 year. This video and every other video available at youtube.com/CWE Company. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. You can comment on each and every video as the comments are factored into our shows too. We love your feedback in any way. CWEcompany@gmail.com. Facebook.com/CWE Company, WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. And until next time, this is Joshua Zimmerman saying have a great evening and thank you for all the support you've shown me, my cause, and Wrestle Talk Show. Wrestling your way.